July 16th, 2025. I'm Left Hand Stu. How's everybody's Wednesday going? We got some late breaking news just as it's going live. Maureen Comey, federal prosecutor in the Sean Diddy Combs and Ghislaine Maxwell cases, has been fired. I think she's Comey's like daughter-in-law, maybe? We'll find it. It's in the story. We'll get there. But we got a lot of stuff on the docket. Obviously, there's the Epstein stuff just keeps getting weirder and weirder, and everybody trying to say let's move on just seems to look guiltier and guiltier. So I guess we'll start with that. So the Justice Department on Wednesday fired Maureen Comey from the United States Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York, where she most recently led the prosecution of Sean Diddy Combs, multiple sources told ABC News. A spokesman for the U.S. Attorney's Office in Manhattan declined to comment. A spokesman for the Justice Department did not immediately respond to a call for comment. Comey was highly regarded assistant U.S. attorney who successfully prosecuted Ghislaine Maxwell, the former associate of sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, and multiple gang members before the split verdict earlier this month in the trial of Combs, who was convicted of prostitution-related charge but acquitted of the more serious charges. Comey was also involved in the office's case against Epstein, who died by suicide in 2019, allegedly, at New York City Metropolitan Correctional Center while he was awaiting trial on federal sex trafficking charges. Comey is the daughter of former FBI Director James Comey, who President Donald Trump fired during his first term in office because he initiated the Russia investigation, the Russia investigation. According to sources, Trump privately vented about having Comey work in his administration. This marks the latest shakeup for the nation's most prominent federal prosecutor's office. In April, the office's top prosecutor, Matthew Podolsky, agreed to step aside, clearing the way for Trump to install Jay Clayton, his nominee for interim U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York. Podolsky had taken over for Danielle Sassoon, who in February resigned in protest of the Justice Department's order to drop corruption charges against New York Mayor Eric Adams. Sassoon had been named interim U.S. attorney by Trump when the president fired Edward Kim, who assumed the role during the change in administrations. Jesus. Good Lord. It just keeps coming. And in also related news, it now turns out that missing minute is almost 3 minutes. So this was from Wired yesterday. The FBI's Jeffrey Epstein prison video had nearly 3 minutes cut out. Metadata from the raw Epstein prison video, shows approximately 2 minutes and 53 seconds were removed from one of two stitched together clips. The cut starts at the missing minute. Which, does that mean they also altered the little timer there? Because it goes from, doesn't it go from 11, well, I guess it goes from 11:58, so maybe it's we don't know what the second counter is there on, or whatever. So newly uncovered metadata reveals that nearly 3 minutes of footage were cut from what the U.S. Department of Justice and Federal Bureau of Investigation described as full raw surveillance video from the only functioning camera near Jeffrey Epstein's prison cell the night before he was found dead. The video was released last week as part of Trump administration's commitment to fully investigate Epstein's 2019 death, but instead has raised new questions about how the footage was edited and assembled. Wired previously reported that the video had been stitched together in Adobe Premiere Pro from two video files, contradicting the Justice Department's claim that it was raw footage. Now, further analysis shows that one of the source clips was approximately 2 minutes and 53 seconds longer than the segment included in the final video, indicating that the footage appears to have been trimmed before release. It's unclear what, if anything, the minutes cut from the first clip showed. I don't know. The nearly 3 minute discrepancy may be related to the widely reported 1 minute gap between 11:58:58 and 12 a.m. that Attorney General Pam Bondi has attributed to a nightly system reset, which just on its face sounds insane. That's a thing that would be included in a video game about escaping from prison. Like, that's your 1 minute window every night to try and escape. So in the final version of the video, and was trimmed to the 11:58:58 mark, right before the jump to midnight. Metadata confirms that the first video file, which showed footage from August 9th, 2019, continued for several minutes beyond what appears in the final version of the video, and was trimmed to the 11:58:58 mark, right before the jump to midnight. The cut to the first clip doesn't necessarily mean that there is additional time unaccounted for. The second clip picks up at midnight, which suggests the two would overlap, nor does it prove that the missing minute was cut from the video. Okay. All right. Well, that's a little less conspiratorial. It's a little bit of a rain on the conspiracy parade there. But yeah. But you know who's really been having a wild time, sort of losing his mind watching all of this is, where is it? CoffeeZilla, who's been following a lot of this. He's on this case, and I really like CoffeeZilla. He does I would call what he does journalism. Like, I have no qualms calling what he like, especially with the like Bitcoin stuff, crypto. That was the word I was trying to think of. Like, he talks to firsthand sources. He digs through like the data and like text sources, and like he understands how all those, like, how to read all of those numbers and like trace wallets and stuff. CoffeeZilla is killing it.
This is the worst cover-up of my lifetime, the Epstein case. The reason I'm talking about it so much is because
it's a joke. Like, imagine, like, think of the FBI and the intelligence services and the deep state and the aura of like menace and like being like pulling the strings behind the scenes and what you're supposed to think all of these organizations are. And compared to this is the most slapstick attempt to get people to stop paying attention to something I've ever seen. Everything they do only makes people more interested in it and more like I'm starting to see people who, like, maybe 2 weeks ago would have dismissed the entire... are you kidding me? Did we really just freeze again? I thought I fixed this. Okay, all right. That was an easier fix than usual. Yeah, I think, and they like the House Republicans voted against releasing whatever Epstein files that could be released. Yeah, Ghislaine Maxwell was like, I'm willing to testify, which I don't know if that, I never actually saw like concrete reporting on Ghislaine Maxwell wanting to speak, which I would be surprised if she was actually willing to. But like, just like, if you've ever seen the Oliver Stone JFK documentary, just imagine how like how dumb that movie would be if he had to make the Oliver Stone Epstein assassination documentary, or whatever, however he died. Allegedly.
If you can get away with this, you really can get away with anything. If the government can tell people to not believe what they just said a few months ago and have everyone be fine with that, that's just a level of gaslighting that I refuse to be a part of. Never forget, they just promised us names in the release of the Epstein files.
Breaking news right now, you're going to see some Epstein information being released.
What kind?
A lot of
He also had a good tweet on this one too. Where was it? Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, it's just like, because what was it because he's referencing, I think, something Trump said. There it is. Where it's like, are these the weaklings and stupid people who fell for the Democratic hoax? Because what was it that Trump said? He said something like, there was video where he said something like on the White House lawn.
I know you've urged people to move on, but I'm curious, why do you think your supporters in particular have been so interested in the Epstein story and so upset about how it's been handled?
I don't understand why they would be so interested. He's dead for a long time. He was never a big factor in terms of life. I don't understand what the interest or what the fascination is. I really don't. And the credible information's been given. Don't forget, we went through years of the Mueller witch hunt and all of the different things, the Steele dossier, which was all fake. All that information was fake. But I don't understand why the
I'm going to jump back to the beginning.
They would be so interested. He's dead for a long time.
He hasn't been dead that long. Like, when did he die? It was 2019?
He was never a big factor in terms of life.
It was during your last term,
I don't
dude.
understand what the interest or what the fascination is. I really don't. And the
He died while your administration was prosecuting
him. We
him.
went through years of the Mueller witch hunt and all of the different things, the Steele dossier, which was all fake. All that information was fake. But I don't understand why the Jeffrey Epstein case would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring stuff. It's sordid, but it's boring. And I
It's
don't
sordid, but it's
understand why
boring?
it's going. I think, well, really only pretty bad people, including fake news, want to keep something like that going. But credible
Look at him just
information, let
chuckling
them give it.
away.
Anything that's credible, I would say let them have it.
You were the people. Up until, like, literally maybe a week and a half ago, you were the only, like, your cohort, your supporters were, like, the only ones keeping this flame lit. And then, yeah. Why would Biden do this? I can't believe Biden would do this.
Flight logs, a lot of names, a lot of information.
But in this case, in Epstein's case, it is incredibly disturbing. We have flight logs, we have information, names that will come out.
Is it going to be shocking?
I don't see how it's not shocking that there were so many individuals that were hidden and kept secret and not been held accountable.
Yeah, well, apparently there are no names to be given. Like, no list,
This could actually become like a thing that fractures this coalition. You cannot whip the cranks up into a fever and then just expect them to stop on a dime.
Blackmail. Epstein has now been pushed as a lone trafficker. It's the lone trafficker theory, guys. Essentially, the government's memo that they just released contradicts everything we've seen before and now basically implies that Epstein was trafficking to himself and Ghislaine Maxwell was trafficking to Epstein, and there was no other blackmail or trafficking going on. That's what this memo essentially implies. His wealth and his power then would be just from his skill as a New York financier.
I'm talking about Jeff Epstein, the New York financier.
Basically, he was the world's greatest tax advisor by day and the world's greatest trafficker at night to himself. And the rich and powerful people who all flocked to him and to his island had no idea of this double life. That really is kind of the heart of the modern theory, is that just all Epstein by himself, and then his friends just were there for his tax advice, despite not being a tax professional or a lawyer. Not only that, another huge revelation is the fact that really the government has increased the number of victims and decreased the number of perpetrators, right? We had the idea that there were these other perpetrators for a while, that they were just redacted.
Not usually how it works.
Cases. Now we got pretty clear statements that there isn't evidence to bring future cases on third parties. But if you look at the original 2019 indictment, it says dozens of victims. This is from Ken Klippenstein. But the Epstein review says over 1,000 victims.
Which is consistent with
So what
prior
happened, guys?
disclosures?
And by the way, in the
What prior
interim, they also
disclosures?
increased the number to 200 to 250.
200 victims. 200.
Yeah, it was,
So
she
we have
increased it
well
from
over
200
over
to 250
250 actually.
within this interview.
So we went from dozens to 200 to over 1,000 in the span of basically a year in terms of victims. We like 10x the number of victims, but now there's no perpetrators. Like the perpetrators have been reduced. That is the crazy thing about what they're implying here, what this lone trafficker theory is pushing forward. It's also strange because previously Epstein, in a court filing, is said to have provided information to the FBI as agreed upon. Case agent advised that no federal prosecution will occur in this matter as long as Epstein continues to uphold his agreement with the state of Florida. So apparently there was some deal where Epstein was providing information to the FBI. What information? We don't know because no one else was involved. There's also the simple fact that if you go to the FBI records, what they call the vault, most of the files are just heavily redacted. So the idea that we got some transparency wave is literally a joke. Yes, it is true. There's no Epstein list where there's like names written down, but names exist in documents, on videos, in images, and they're all redacted. What's going on here? They're going to say, oh, it's all for the victims, right? But it's not all victim names. In addition to that, this lone trafficker theory is already on shaky grounds when you think about Prince Andrew's settlement with Virginia Giuffre, where he paid $16 million to make civil sexual assault allegations go away. Now, of course, it's worth saying that he did not admit to guilt. This was a settlement, but that is what you're always going to have with these rich and powerful people. In the same way, you also have Leon Black, who reportedly paid $158 million over 5 years to Jeffrey Epstein for tax advice. And guess what? Leon Black, billionaire, also paid the U.S. Virgin Islands $62 million in cash as part of a settlement, a non-prosecution, where they wouldn't go after him for anything from, quote, any and all claims of any nature whatsoever, specifically related to Jeffrey Epstein. It's worth noting that $15 million of this cash payment will be going to counseling programs and activities or mental health services. You also have Jess Staley, the former boss of Barclays. He directly admitted to having sex with a member of Epstein's staff, which you would expect if someone was running a trafficking operation. Although, I just have to say that there was a statement that this was entirely consensual, and I'm not saying anything about that. I'm simply saying the idea that Epstein was just trafficking for himself is unlikely to be true, in my opinion. Later, Staley wrote to Epstein, "Say hi to Snow White." Epstein replied, "What character would you like next?" Staley responded, "Beauty and the Beast." And then Jeffrey Epstein said, well, one side is available. Obviously,
Considering how insane some of these cranks went over just any reference to cheese pizza to this day. Like, what does that mean? What could that possibly mean?
Of coded message, you can read into that for yourself, but all of this is public. That's what I'm trying to say. That's what makes the government's memo so infuriating, is so much reporting has already been done. These settlements with powerful figures under denials, yes, but also under very questionable circumstances, make just a complete denial and statement that all of this was just Epstein impossible to believe. In September 2009, Epstein also emailed a woman named Irina to tell her that Jess Staley is staying in the Berkeley Hotel in London tonight. Staley emailed Epstein the next day to say, "I should have taken your offer," according to the Times. There's also this book by one of the 60 Minutes correspondents called A Ticking Clock, where he says that he met with Ghislaine Maxwell, and he said, "I want the tapes," I said to Maxwell at a table at Regency Bar. "I know he was videotaping everyone. I want the tape of Trump with the girls." She didn't deny the existence of the tapes, but said, "I don't know where they are." He apparently replied, "Ask Epstein," and she gave him a stern look and pointed a finger at my face. "I'm the daughter of a press baron. I know the way you people think. If you do one side, you must do the other. If you get tapes on Trump, you have to do Clinton." Now, again, what you
They're just having this conversation in a public bar. Was Eyes Wide Shut really it? Like, maybe it was a documentary. I don't, like, who knows? This is... I'm losing my mind.
Make of a third-hand source like this, talking to Ghislaine Maxwell, who apparently doesn't deny that some of these tapes exist. Was she even telling the truth or just playing some game? Either way, this was all known about, not just by people after the fact, but allegedly by people during the fact. This is from Mark Epstein. It's sourced from Jeffrey Epstein. Quote, "If I said what I know about both candidates, they'd have to cancel the election." That's what Jeffrey told me in 2016. So not even Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell allegedly were claiming this was all just between them. They were constantly insinuating that there were compromising things on various powerful people. What's funny is that Trump himself, even before he was in a position to declassify this stuff, had accused other powerful people of doing these things.
Bill Clinton.
Nice guy. Got a lot of problems coming up, in my opinion, with the famous island with Jeffrey Epstein.
Like,
That
he was
island was
constantly
really a
talking
cesspool.
about.
There's no question about it. Just ask Prince Andrew.
You also have the fact that Jeffrey Epstein was in touch with other convicted pedophiles. Larry Nassar, he was writing letters. So the idea, once again, that he was just by himself, off by himself, doing things on his island by himself, and then taking calls with people like Bill Gates simply for philanthropic advice, really pushes the bounds of belief. Don't forget, a close associate of Bill Gates was named a fallback executor on the will of Jeffrey Epstein, which he, by the way, said he was shocked by and he deeply regrets meeting Epstein. Bill Gates has said similar things to that effect. Of course, Bill Gates fraternized with Epstein after he was convicted of crimes. Previously, he told the Wall Street Journal, "I didn't have any business relationship or friendship with him." But in fact, he met multiple times with him at his Manhattan townhouse. Now, once again, I have to say real quick, all of these people are innocent until proven guilty. All of them deny doing anything untoward. But my point is, there are already too many associations to make the lone trafficker theory make any sense. For example, Jean-Luc Brunel was somebody who apparently trafficked a bunch of people to Epstein, who himself abused a bunch of women and even was charged for it. He was charged for some really awful things and then later found dead in his cell. Interestingly, Epstein was actually a financier of Brunel's modeling agency, where a lot of this alleged abuse happened. So once again, the idea of the lone trafficker just doesn't make sense.
Melinda Gates essentially confirmed her divorce was because Bill went to Epstein Island. No guarantee she has proof, but I mean, I wouldn't want, like, if I were her, I wouldn't care. If you went to, I don't need proof more than you stepped foot on the island. I'm going to a divorce lawyer the next time it's open. If it's open when I find out, I'm on my way there. I don't need to know any more information. You went to the island? Okay, we're done.
Because Epstein's directly linked to another guy who is also abusing women. So after all of this, they're really asking you to believe the unbelievable. They're asking you to not believe what they've said about this case, both out of office and now in power. They're asking you to not believe public reporting linking Epstein to other known pedophiles. They're asking you not to believe suspicious circumstances regarding settlements of powerful people. They're asking you to believe that Epstein was just the greatest tax advisor and financial advisor on the planet that all of these billionaires needed to consult, despite the fact that there are entire organizations built around providing the same services as this without the, links to crimes. They're asking you to believe that when people are talking about Snow White and Beauty and the Beast, they're referencing Disneyland. And they're especially asking you to believe that they have found 900 new victims since reviewing these files and exactly 0 new perpetrators. So I'm just not buying it personally. I find it insulting to the intelligence of every single person who's ever looked at this story. And yeah, it really makes me feel like this was a appropriate time to launch a crime is legal merch collection, to be honest. So yeah, this is probably my last video on this for a while, but just disgusting.
Could have maybe dunked on Doug.
he said last video for a while. That was when was
This is the
video
worst
put
cover
out?
up of my lifetime, the Epstein case.
This was
the reason
5
I'm
days
talking
ago.
about
He
it
put
so
out a video today.
Body's desk, then they didn't exist, then they were
He put this out 16 hours ago.
first the Epstein files were on Pam Body's desk, then they didn't exist, then they were written
Yeah, he just went there for a beach day, played some volleyball, and then he went home.
by the Democrats. Now they're just plain all boring. You don't want to see what's in there.
It's pretty boring stuff. It's sorted, but it's boring. And I don't understand why it keeps going. I think really only pretty bad people, including fake news, want to keep something like that going. But credible information, let them give it. Anything that's credible, I would say let them have it.
So there you hear it. Now, to some of you, the copium's going to set in. You're going to say, hey, he said the credible information, we can release it. We should release it, and we'll talk about that. But they also say in the same interview, we already released the credible information.
And the credible information's been given.
So if it's already been given, they're not going to give you more stuff. Now, funny enough, the guy next to Trump looking on and laughing as Trump says this is a big nothing burger. The only people who would deal in this kind of talk are fake news. That is Epstein's neighbor. That is Howard Lutnick, who has a house that was next to Epstein's place. You can see him laughing here. It's even been reported that Howard Lutnick's place actually literally touches Jeffrey Epstein's house. That's how close their two houses are together. That's the same guy.
I mean, here's the thing, though. What do you qualify as worst? Because I would say the cover-up of Biden's worsening mental acuity was executed much better. They were much better at hiding that. They kept that going for almost 4 years. I think that cover-up was executed much better. If we're talking about impact, we can have that debate. But when I say worst, I'm talking about like the actual execution of the cover-up, because so far their execution has only made people more interested and more suspicious. So that's what I'm judging it on.
Laughing at a statement by the president that Jeffrey Epstein is boring and there's no reason to look into him, and if you do, you're a bad person.
Really only pretty bad people, including fake news, want to keep something like that going.
I almost don't have...
Well, the alternate explanation, Celine Hall, is that the Biden administration didn't release it because it would have been equally damning for Democrats, probably. I don't think it would have been a partisan endeavor.
Words for this, to be calling it boring, to be talking about one of the world's largest predators of all time and trying to figure out who the powerful people are who are connected with this guy, especially when the former neighbor of said predator is standing there laughing as you say that everyone interested in this case is somehow fake news or a bad person. You can see this both in property records and in public press statements at the time about Epstein's Manhattan townhouse, saying that Howard Lutnick of Cantor Fitzgerald bought the adjacent smaller townhouse owned by Lex Wexner. That's one of Epstein's famous benefactors. And
wait, sorry. I think my chat on my... Oh, wait. There we go. Is this show fake news that Trump is talking about? Wait, which show? I think the Biden administration was maybe more interested in other things. I think they maybe were happy for it to just go away.
in fact, Epstein owned the house that later got sold to Howard Lutnick. You can see he owns the trust that owned this house. Later, of course, it goes to Comet Trust and then to Howard Lutnick. Supposedly, the property was sold for $10 in cash value and some other equivalent things. We don't know how much, just to be clear. So maybe it was a fair value price. And maybe they don't know each other. I want to be clear that Howard Lutnick denies knowing Jeffrey Epstein or being associated, so we have to get that in there. But the optics of this are just completely insane, and anyone who's paying attention should not expect any further disclosures from the FBI, DOJ, despite the fact that Trump is sort of about facing on this and saying, well, we can give over the legitimate files, But as we just showed, the legitimate files they're claiming they've already put out. Here's Donald Trump saying that the Epstein files, once again, are a hoax, but he also says that they can be released if credible.
And in terms of the credibility of the different things that they've seen, I would say that, these files were made up by Comey, they were made up by Obama, they were made up by the Biden we went through years of that with the Russia hoax, with all of the different things that we had to go through. We've gone through years of it, but she's handled it very well. And it's going to be up to her. Whatever she thinks is credible, she should release. Yeah.
So that's the second time now he's pushed it off on his attorney general to now handle. But I just don't think this is meaningful because, like I said, they've already said they've given us the credible information already. I think basically they're going to kill it from here. That's my guess, especially since we did get a word from Pam Bondi about this. When asked, she basically said we're just going to defer to the memo.
Would release credible files related to Mr. Epstein. Are you prepared to do that, and when would you do it?
Our memo speaks for itself, and we'll get back to you on anything else. I haven't seen all of his statements today.
So I think that shows pretty clearly that they're going to just continue barreling down this path while giving people a bone as far as making it seem like they might release something. This is a common smokescreen that we see where they will kind of bait people like, maybe we'll release something, maybe we'll release something, maybe, and then every 12 months or something, they release something of complete non-importance. The problem is when people like this control the files, anything but a full release besides the CSAM and victims' names is not going to do it. You have to, the only way to do something like this is to release all of the files, except for those small categories. That's the only way to build back trust. But clearly that's not what's going to happen. And anyone who's paying the slightest bit of attention to what our leaders are actually saying, they are absolutely telling you they're not going to do it. They're all deferring to each other. Trump's deferring to Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi's deferring to the memo. And ultimately, no one is going to be held accountable. Now, there have been some political games played with this, with the Democrats trying to get the Epstein files released.
Yeah,
and this was actually
they're probably not going to be able to, even if the vote had gone through, I doubt they would have been able, it would have done anything to actually get anything released.
Blocked by people in Congress, which is just so mind-blowing to me that people would actually say no to releasing this, but they did.
Saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say
no.
no.
Could have. I don't know how it would have worked.
In the opinion chair, the noes have it. The amendment's not agreed
Chair, I'm kind of shocked by that. I will ask for a roll call.
5 yeas, 7 nays.
The amendment is not agreed to, and I think most of us believe what's appropriate will be released when it is time for the president to release it.
Well, Madam,
thank you.
So there you see it. We're just supposed to blindly trust that they're going to release it. Honestly, I have no faith in any of this. I think this is all political theater. Honestly, the people who are like, oh, look, it's just the Republicans. We could have released this a long time ago. To be honest, I don't trust any of these people until I see actual documents released. I believe this is all theater. I don't actually believe they're going to get this done. I think they could have been doing this from the very beginning. And truth be told, we've seen our government protect Jeffrey Epstein for over a decade. This didn't start in 2019 when he died. This has been going on since the early 2000s from his first plea deal where he got a non-prosecution agreement. I mean, we have been protecting this guy. Powerful people have been protecting him for years upon years upon years, and it crosses party lines. So while, yeah, I guess it's cool that we're making little votes like this and we get to see people actually put the words out there. I'm not gonna force the release because they'll tell us when they feel like it, so we can see the despicableness firsthand. I don't actually believe that politicians are gonna be the one to open this case wide open. I think it's going to be either a leaker, a hacker, somebody who is just willing to YOLO on this that will actually meaningfully move this case forward. I haven't seen any evidence that there is political will, besides dunking on your political opponent, to actually do anything. Because that's all we've really seen so far is people hit each other with the old, like, you're involved with Epstein. And then you go, well, hey, can you release the files? And they always say, well, we'd sure love to, but actually, no, we can't. Now, that might sound a little doomer. I won't blame you if you get excited about the possible release of the Epstein files, but I just feel like we've been down this road before with people promising to, expose the deep state, expose the guys in power. In fact, ironically, that's the story of how we got here now.
Again, it's just
is
gonna be
the Trump
another
administration
thing on the files
was
that
dunking
we're
on their
never really
political
gonna
opponents
get
for years, saying that,
answers on.
they're secretly involved with Epstein
It's just gonna-
until it was time to release the
another
files.
piece of
And then
erosion
now,
of
it was
people's
made by
trust
the
in,
Democrats. So that's where we're going to leave
or at
it.
least
They're
Americans'
literally
trust in their
laughing at us. They're calling it boring. They're saying nothing to see here. While both people on
a
the screen were
fracturing of the
somehow
MAGA coalition
involved or linked to
between
Jeffrey Epstein,
Trump
it's
loyalists
beyond belief,
and the,
honestly. And yeah,
people who
this is going to be the
thought he
last
was,
time I talk about
a
Jeffrey
white
Epstein.
hat, or like Trump was Q. Trump was the guy doing the QAnon releases.